We now continue on the 2017 PFA offseason as we get closer and closer to the 2018 season. And the next part of the offseason is retirements. And it's going to be the exact same thing as it was last year, as I'll show every single player with the last team they played, their year of how long they played in the league, the tenure of the teams they played, and their entire stats, and maybe talk about some interesting things about them. And the one thing I hate about PFS, the game I place on, is that they put the retired players in the same list. They don't organize them by like years they retired stuff, so all the 2017 players that just retired are in the same list as 2016. So later on as this league goes on, it's going to be very, very, very hard to do all this crap. It's so annoying. But anyways, this year, unlike last year, there's not that many retirements. In fact, I added up, I think it was only 5 this year. So here we go. Here are all the players that retired after the 2017 PFA season. So we start off the retirement with probably the most well-known player on this list, maybe if any of you remember, and that's Kevin Blaylock, the quarterback of the Denver Miners the last 2 years, as he was the original Miners starting quarterback in 2016. However, he suffered an injury during the year, and he was really bad. So Zachary Ellis, his backup, came in, and he was so good that he became the starter, which he still is to this day, and Blaylock ended up being the backup for this year, and he finally just retired. So he only played in 5 games, and his career overall was 64 of 122, which is a 52.5 completion percentage, 994 yards, 4 touchdowns to 9 interceptions, and a QB rating of 59.9. And he also had 16 rushes for 43 yards. So yeah, not really good stats for what was hoped to be the Miners' first ever franchise quarterback, as his backup ended up becoming that, and much, much better. And then next on the list was James Johnson, who was a running back who spent his entire career with the Baltimore Charm from 2016 to 2017, as he was primarily the backup, so he didn't get to really do much. And his career total was 207 attempts for 789 yards and 8 touchdowns, which the vast majority of those stats came from his 2016 season. 36 receptions for 303 yards and a touchdown. He had 1 fumble recovery on defense, and as protection for his QB, he actually forced 9 pancakes, so pretty good on him, but not really good stats that'll eventually get you into the Hall of Fame. Absolutely not. And then after that is another running back, as this time it's David Pogue, who was with the Boston Destroyers. He played his entire career with them, and this is going to sting, as he was their 6th round pick in the expansion draft, so he was the 6th ever player taken by the Boston Destroyers. And stat-wise, in his 2 years as the 6th player taken, not really that good, as he was the primary running back. 469 attempts for 1,875 yards and 12 touchdowns. 44 receptions for 548 yards and a touchdown. He had 2 fumble recoveries, and he also forced 13 pancakes but allowed 2 sacks. But he was also the primary kickoff or punt returner last year too. He had 19 returns for 366 yards. This is going to sting for Boston, as remember, they're in a rebuild mode now. So now they got to get a new running back probably somewhere in the draft that they thought were going to get, already had with David Pogue. So yeah, kind of selfish in that way to retire so soon, especially when he was only 29 going into the 2018 season. And then we get to our only defensive player on the list, and that was Stephen Briggs, as he was a defensive end that played on 2 teams. First, he played on his team that he was drafted by, the Baltimore Charm, in 2016 before being cut, and then he signed with Buffalo last year before he got cut again, so decided to retire, although statistically, he was pretty good. Well, not like the best, but pretty solid. 109 tackles and 16 sacks in 2 years, plus forced 5 fumbles and recovered 1 of them. So I'm actually kind of surprised that he would retire, not maybe trying to see if he can get on another team, but hey, that's what happens. But then again, I guess when you're 35, I guess it's not too much to expect you to stay in the league that long. And then we wrap it up soon with the kickers that actually retired recently. We start off with Monty Joyce. He played 2 years, but he actually only played on 1 team, and that was the Kansas City Hammerheads in his first year of their existence, as he was their 43rd player picked in the expansion draft. And he was pretty good his first year. 33 of 40 on field goals, which is an 82.5% completion, and he completed every single one of his extra points, but he was cut right before the 2017 season. No one picked him up, and he retired. I guess not playing for a year. You're 36 years old, despite doing pretty good in terms of stats. It's kind of surprised that he didn't last that long. And we finally finished off with the sixth and last retiree of the year, and that's Kenneth Sheffield, another kicker. He played on the Atlanta Trojans in 2016. He was then cut, and he wasn't picked up till the middle of the 2007 season by the Cincinnati Colts, who their kicker suffered an injury, and he actually played for 3 games, and he was perfect in his field goals, and when their kicker came back, he was released, and he never got signed again, and he retired afterwards. He was 28 of 30, which is a 93.3% of field goals, and he was complete 100% in his last season, and he was 100% on extra points. So, pretty good career for just 2 games, although 30 kicks for extra, from field goals and 44 kicks for extra points. I don't know if that would be considered that fully impressive. But with that, that'll wrap up this video, as those are all the retirements after the 2017 PFA season. As next up will be roster cuts, as players who were still under contract after the 2017 season face the possibility of getting cut for being not good or costing too much money. So we'll see what happens then. So tune in next time as we get closer to getting ready to start the 2018 PFA season.